Hello, hello, hello. It's God's Comic Brad Stein, and this is Brad Stein Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. I am Brad Stein, and I am excited to bring this next guests on. That's right, guests. You heard me. Plural. Two people, two married people, two people that got married quite late in life, two people who had lots of difficulty and struggles in their marriage, and they want to help you overcome those things. Wyatt took an easier task. He didn't go to Gary and Kim Elliot, who are our guests tonight. He decided the easiest way to get along with a woman and make his marriage successful is to not get married, not date, just stay single. And you know, the Bible says, hey, you're better off being single because women are very challenging. I think the Bible says that somewhere in Habakkuk, or maybe in the apocryphal, unseen biblical texts like, be careful of a woman, they will drive you crazy. Now, in Aramaic, it sounds more sweet. Wyatt, your desire to go womanless, what caused it? What brought it upon yourself? Did you just find they're just more trouble than they're worth?
So no, what happened was I had an epiphany one day. I heard this famous saying by the ancient Western philosopher LeBron James, who said, and I quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
Okay.
And I was like, that's insightful. And then it hit me. Wait a minute. If I miss 100% of the shots I don't take, that still means I missed 0 shots.
Right.
You can't miss. You can miss a shot you don't take, but you haven't taken a shot, so it doesn't count. So
exactly.
You took 0 shots.
So what you're saying is LeBron doesn't know what he's talking about. He tried to sound profound, and instead he sounded like a blithering idiot. Is that what you're getting at, son?
You dare mock the intellectual nirvana that is LeBron James?
Listen.
Without me?
When I go to philosophy and when I want to just do a quick little, a cursory glance at something philosophical to get me in that frame of work. And as you know, I love philosophy. I've studied it. I've studied apologetics and logic and reason and philosophy. It interests the heck out of me. And I think to myself, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. I think to myself, Bertrand Russell. I think to myself, William Lane Craig, who we've had on the podcast. I think to myself of C.S. Lewis. I think to myself of Thomas Aquinas. I think of other great, amazing, Sartre, right, and Nietzsche. I mean, I got to know how everybody thinks, but I got to say, son, they pale in comparison to the wisdom, the insight, and the absolute melding of deep intellectual thought and dribbling and tossing as LeBron James. So you're right. I have probably shortchanged myself in the depth of what I could know and should know had I spent more LeBronian times of listening and hearing and just, stewing. I like to think of it as a stew that I sit in, like a spa, but I stew in his insights and wisdom, son. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe to Brad Stein Has Issues. Please go to Spotify and Apple Tunes and iTunes and watch or listen to me on Brad Stein Has Issues on Life Audio. Please leave reviews. Please just say like. It helps grow the algorithm. It is what it is. You have to fight the system. This is how they do it. And if you don't like it, you wouldn't be here if you thought it wasn't worth it. So, hey, give us a 5-star wherever you do that. Keep us growing. Keep us trying to become something that we think can be helpful to people. And we'll just keep informed. We got more interesting things coming and even more value to the subscription that you'll see. That's going to be more than just the one special bonus question. We're going to give you more than that so that you get your money's worth. So anyways, that's where we're at. That's what we do. I hope you were there. If you were there in Sacramento, leave a note. Hope you enjoyed it, had a great time. Let me know. If you were at Patriot Academy on Sunday, say hi and please join Melissa the Mind. Tell your friends, and we are grateful that you're here, that you're listening, that you're watching, and we're grateful. Folks, if you're out there, pray for my son that he will have himself a second date and it will go swimmingly. Meanwhile, speaking of dates, if you are trying to move into the next phase of your life and have the greatest relationship, romantic opportunities that you can, keep in mind that means if your girl comes with a guy, if your guy comes with a girl, which means it's going to really suck a lot of times because, as you know, the opposite sex are crazy and difficult to live with. But nevertheless, that's part of the fun. It's part of the adventure. It's part of the journey. And nobody has a more interesting journey in quite a while that I've heard than our next guest. So sit back and listen to what they went through. And again, might inspire you. And if you know somebody that's in a position where they're looking for somebody, recommend this. Maybe, cut and paste, copy it, send it to them. And hopefully it'll be an inspiration to those who want God's best in their life and bringing a best friend, a husband, a wife. Not easy, worth the wait. So please enjoy this conversation with an amazing life story of Gary and Kim Elliot. Welcome, my friends.
Hello. Thanks,
Hello,
Brad. Great
Well,
to meet you here.
yes, I appreciate you guys coming in. You're, I think, my first double interview. So I appreciate you guys breaking new ground for me and
Yeah.
keeping me on my toes. Normally, I just get people one-on-one, so it's easy for me to, try to throw them a curve and see if I can mix it up a little bit. But not now. You're double teaming me. But I'm grateful because, like I said, Duke White introduced me to you guys. I guess he had interviewed you. But, you have an interesting story, and I'm not going to kind of spoil it. I'm going to let you guys kind of preface this interview with the way you would rather frame yourself because I think it'll make it more interesting. But it does deal with a topic that is pretty important in the Western culture, and that has to do with abortion because that is quite a volatile and just a topic that causes a lot of dissension and friction and fighting and anger. I mean, it's very sensitive
hmm
for many
Yeah.
reasons. And I think that you are a living representative of what most Christ followers think would be the prudent and the holy thing to do under certain circumstances. But holy smoke, it's easy to talk about it, but to really do it
hmm
is the hard thing. So why don't you do me a favor, Kim? I guess since it's your story, not to leave you out, Gary. I'm sure you'll jump in where you belong. But boy, why don't you preface this conversation with as long or as short as you want, kind of telling your backstory because that will allow us to dive into this thing and people understand what we're up to.
Yeah. When I was a young adult, and I guess I'll back up even then. When I was a little girl, like a lot of little girls, I was fascinated with the princess fairy tale story. So, saving myself for the one who's going to slay dragons was the ideal. And I did not, sometimes I wonder as I look back if it really just kind of wasn't also a way to hold on to an impossible hope. I had grown up conditioned to not consider myself to be a desirable person. So I grew up with a lot of self-hate, which made me timid, basically had no romantic life to speak of. So I held on to the fairy tale and I was saving myself for love. And into my young adult years, that continued. I had this very strong conviction that I was destined for one person, or that being destined for one person could actually be a thing.
Mm.
And I was living for the weekends, and the crowd I was running around with was all about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I was all about the rock and roll, a little bit of the drugs, but none of the sex. And of course, it was a pressure cooker of always, people pushing on you to go ahead because it's quote unquote just sex. But I couldn't shake the conviction. I really wanted the one, quote unquote, for me. My girlfriend and I took a trip to Memphis, Tennessee. I was living in Central Illinois at the time, and we wanted to encounter the king of rock and roll and all the experiences that Memphis would have for us. And so we headed down there. It was Easter weekend, so kind of uh, ironic that we're very close to Easter weekend right now. And that circumstance set me up in a way that before we had finished up all of our events for the weekend, I had, well, I should say we had met a bartender in a bar on Beale Street who was extremely friendly to me. Not that I was really noticing it until my girlfriend brought it to my attention. But before her and I left that place, we just sent out a friendly invite to him to meet us at the hotel bar where we were staying if he got off on time. And he did. And his flirtation with me accelerated. He invited me to go see a live band in town. I was looking for my girlfriend to invite her, but she had got caught up and caught away with one of the guys at the bar there. So not an unusual story at all. Even for me, I was used to girls going off with guys and me being left alone looking for a ride home. So I decided, you know what, my last night in Memphis, I'm just going to go for it. Unfortunately, that put me into a circumstance where this man had dropped a date rape drug in my drink. And before the night was over, he had taken advantage of that. I woke up the next morning completely disturbed, even just trying to catch up with what had happened to me. And uh, knowing that I'm trying to catch up with all of it because it's not just that my virginity had been stolen from me. It was such a shock. Um, but the trauma that was going to be involved with all of that. I remember my girlfriend driving me home, and I was pressing my face up against the ice cold window, just feeling my heart starting to harden over all of it because it was so traumatizing. And I was asking God, please don't let me hate men. Just don't let me hate men. 30 days later, that little haunting voice of, what if you're pregnant? What if you're pregnant? Um, Finally pushed me to go ahead and get a test. And I learned that I actually was pregnant. So not only had my love hopes, my fairy tale dreams been robbed from me, it looked as though the rest of my future was going to be looking that way too.
How old are you, by the way?
I was a young adult. I was 26 years old. And I had always advocated pro-life, spoke against abortion. I had a Catholic background. So I had a strong conviction, even to the point that I would talk to my friends and say, even in the case of rape, I would still choose life. But now I'm the animal caught in a trap, willing to gnaw off its own leg just to get out of it. And I made a call and I scheduled an abortion. And a couple weeks later is when I broke the news to my parents. And that was the pivot. When I broke the news to my parents, in that conversation, it was my dad who interrupted and he said, Kim, abortion is murder and we do not do that. The emphasis was on we. It opened a whole nother door for me. And that's what grace does. It gives you a choice to make a better decision. And
Mm.
I've heard now I'm not alone in the consequences of that weekend. I'm not alone in my circumstances moving forward and all those hard decisions that were coming at me. We were going to do this as a family. So from that point, I moved forward into adoption plans.
Mm.
Do you want me to continue or do you
No,
have?
please. No, no, no. This is it's important that people understand your story because, like I said, it's a difference between reading about somebody's life
Mhm.
and conjecturing how we should behave under certain circumstances, like it's a bumper sticker or something,
Yeah.
But when it's existential, when it's for real,
Mhm.
when there is a lifelong um, result that one will have to participate in. I don't want to say endure or make it sound like it's an imposition, and it is, but
Yeah.
an imposition I guess, becomes redefined as an opportunity for a life that maybe you didn't choose, that will have a great meaning and purpose in the long run, but you're doing a hard thing. And that's
Yeah.
simply not what people want to do,
No.
especially in the West. We want things easy and comfortable and easy to control. And that
Yeah.
isn't what life often brings us. So I didn't mean to wax eloquent on your story, but I feel like, now we get to see a story with a face attached, with a human attached, with a heart attached, with a life
Yeah.
attached, and that makes you understand what is at stake here. So I'm sorry for that, but I want people to understand why this matters. So go ahead
I,
and continue to.
yeah, I appreciate that because I did write out, I did put my story into a book for that purpose,
Yeah,
that people wouldn't just see the bumper sticker
yeah.
of the choice, but they would literally see um, the impact and even the mind riots that happen in the decision making. And that book's
What
called
what did you call that?
The
Mind
Mind
riot?
Riot.
Mind riots?
Yeah, Mind Riot. Yeah. This is the songwriter over here, so you can credit, I have to credit him for the
No, no,
the
no. That was a very intriguing
term.
nomenclature. So I wanted to make sure I understood that. I'd never heard
Yeah.
that. So that's a cool way to frame it. So since we're in the middle of this, as I allow you to continue, the book she's referencing, I believe, is Choosing Life After Rape, which is
Yes.
pretty hardcore. So that's the book you wrote, and we'll put up a link in case people want to get it because it will be helpful. But anyways, so that's the story where I'm sure you elaborate, but please continue.
Yeah. So we at that point that you can feel the rightness in that decision to go through with an adoption. So for me, um, I wanted to do the best at doing the right thing. And I also just wanted to get my life back to myself. So that was a driving part of moving forward. My goal is to get my life back to myself, get it the way it was, and to do the right thing on behalf of the baby.
Mm.
And a couple of things that worked into that decision was the fact that um, I was able to separate myself once I wasn't alone. Then I was able to look at this child and understand and know that this baby was just as innocent of the crime as I was. So I was able to identify with the innocence of the baby, and it turned me from having a victim mentality to that of a champion. I needed to go ahead and deny myself long enough to make room for this innocent person, this person who's innocent of the crime, to get their opportunity to live. So that's what I did. And it wasn't easy. I mean, this is back in 1991. So, pregnancies outside of wedlock weren't as shameful as they were in the 50s and 60s, but still incredibly uncomfortable. And I did make a visit to a crisis pregnancy center to try to get some leads on how to arrange for adoption. And all of the profiles were full of wonderful couples. They read like Hallmark cards. But all of the conversations were terribly, terribly awkward because how do you prepare to give away your baby, your first baby? So it was incredibly challenging. When my daughter was born, um, she was, of course, beautiful, hard not to attach yourself to, and perfectly precious and perfectly cuddly and perfectly worth the choice for life. So I had done what I had set out to do. I took care of her, gave birth to her, and then in front of the hospital, I handed her over and placed her into the arms of the adoptive parents. Now, they were required by the state to not leave for 72 hours. So they went off to a motel while my mom drove me back home. We stopped at a Walgreens. I'm walking through the store, still in a fog from the last 9 months. It just hadn't lifted. And I remember the girl at the register asking me how I was that day. She's all bright and cheery. And I'm like, I I got a chasm of 9 months of dark activity and deep, heavy decisions and hard things to do. And I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that except fine with a fake smile. I got home that day and laid in my bed, and I just kept staring at the ceiling, looking for um, that one line, that one thought that brings a conclusion to all this, so I can finally get my life back to myself. And the ceiling never responded to all of my questions. That night, my mom was laying in her bed crying out to the Lord, getting really gut ugly honest with him and saying how much she just really wanted to go back and get that baby.
Mm.
The Lord responded to her prayer, and the Lord told her, she's still yours. So she came into my room the next morning. She told me the conversation she had with the Lord. And she said, if you were to change your mind, I want you to know that I will give up life as I've known it, and I will watch her while you work. But the decision is yours. Again, grace opened another door for a whole nother thought consideration. And I called a friend who was a single mom to two twin boys that were 2 years old. And I thought it just can't get any harder than that as a single mom. And I said, do everything you can to talk me out of being a single parent. And there was just nothing she could say to turn off that switch that got lit. So I did change my mind. My girlfriend who drove me back from Memphis was now driving me to Walmart to pick up all the baby things we could think of. My brother had moved out of the house a couple weeks before that, so there was an empty room in the home. My baby bed was still hanging up in the garage, so my parents were putting that together. So we had a nursery within 2 hours, and I brought her home, and I raised her as a single parent.
Wow. So, so I'm just trying to kind of be aware of my own countenance and wrapping my mind around your story because the emotions, man, they're all over the map. Because first off, when you talked about carrying, this child obviously for 9 months, and then you deliver the child. I mean, it doesn't get more intimate. It doesn't get more personal. It doesn't get more spiritual. It doesn't get more sacred. Only women get to let humans live inside of. I mean, it's something men will never understand. And it's certainly you're designed to desire and to pro protect and watch over your child. I mean, so are men, but women have a different way of doing that. That is more like the hen in the wings, it says in Psalms 91. Um, so for you to give it up, like when you were telling me that story, I'm like, man, that has got to be the hardest thing. Even if you were thinking, well, I'll get this over with, it'll be in a better home, and okay, I'll go on with my life. But you feel it moving, you feel it working in it for all that time. Suddenly it's born. There's this little baby. It's yours,
Yeah,
and you can't not connect to it on a spiritual level. It's impossible.
right.
And then you see it, and then you're thinking, but I'm doing a wonderful thing for people who can't have a baby and will do anything. They'll do it. Please, God. They prayed to the ceiling.
They
Please.
did.
Can we have one because we'll give it everything it wants, but we
Mhm.
can't have it. And so can we have one? And suddenly they get the phone call. Somebody, you've got one. You've got,
Yeah.
oh, thank you, God. Thank you. Calling all their family. We got one. We got our own. And then they give, oh, we did it. And then they're sitting in their hotel. And I hope this isn't, hope this, look, this is an old story. And I know you've been through all this, but it's fresh for me. So I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I guess, feel everything authentically because there's so much going on in these stories that, wow, it's messy.
Hmm.
And so, they have to wait 72 hours. And I'm guessing they're sitting there going, okay, we made it. Okay, it's only 71 hours. Okay, only she hasn't come back. Oh my God. And then you do. And by the way, that's beautiful. But then I feel sorry for them. So it's just like, wow, anyways, I'm
Yeah,
like,
you should have been in the room.
oh Lord.
I mean, it was the I don't know if I have a word big enough for it. I'm going to use the word pressure, but it's too little on both sides because where I was um almost in a numb state of grieving, now they were coming into it.
Oh, I
Like
know.
the exchange was happening right there where I couldn't dress the baby before handing her over at the hospital. Now they can't dress the baby to hand her to her mother.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it was those next 24 to 48 hours emotionally, I don't know that I've ever experienced being as drained as I was for those couple of days.
And like I said, I believe you did a beautiful, wonderful thing on both sides. When you're trying to give it to a family that can't have their own was a beautiful, sacred thing.
So
Did you
back,
have I guess we don't really know your background as much, and it's probably not nearly as interesting, frankly, than the one we just experienced. So you're gonna have a hard act to follow.
you're
Uh,
talking to the right person here. So
yeah.
yawn.
But but you have, everybody's life is a story, and it has a crucial part of in this case a combination that became a greater story. But you grew up as a man with hopes and dreams and whatnot. So give me a little bit of how you ended up in this place, and maybe if any of your earlier life experiences you think was preparing for this uniquely, or do you think it's just like, no, I didn't have any, particular thoughts about it one way or the other. It's just once I met her, I knew this is what I've been waiting for. Or perhaps you had prior relationship. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about what makes you you and why you fit so well in this puzzle.
Well, Kim and I also, I mean, this is just one part of the ministry that we're involved in. She has this pro-life story that you're uncovering today, but we also have something called God of the Romantic presentations. We have a love story that was a divine love story that we both believed in and waited for God to make a match Himself. So I had gone through typical relationships, younger as a younger guy, teenager, and in my 20s, where none of those relationships really stuck, and it frustrated me. So eventually, I dove into the scripture to find out how, God, do you really do this? And I found out that love was supposed to be a gift, not something I had to strive to find, not something I had to dig and struggle and have multiple broken hearts because I failed and failed. It was meant to be something that He gave, just like He gave Eve to Adam. It was a gift, and that He always wanted to repeat that for His kids. And so, in my studies of that, that put me on a different path. I
Mhm.
ceased the whole striving business. I ceased the whole dating world. I just stopped. And I said, you will make this match. And Kim was living the same way on the other side of the city. And we didn't know each other at the time. And I began to teach this to young people, to teach it to singles, began to write. And it just, at first, initially, when I did it for my own sanity. How do you work? I need to know this. I need to know. And it really was a strong drive, but it turned into a ministry to where I was able to share this with others. And Kim was doing the same thing across the city and teaching young women the same type of things and stuff. And when we came together, it just made sense eventually that, hey, we're to join forces with this. So we've written three books. Other than Kim's book, we have three other books that we've written, and we teach this. We're doing a show for Duke on his network about this starting later in the month. And so that is really the main thrust of what we do together. This pro-life thing is a part of it as well, but it's just one vein of it, one arm of
All
it.
right. Well,
So
so if you were to summarize what it is this ministry has become, like, in what you're leaving people with, or what you're teaching them or inspiring them with? Explain it to me exactly, because obviously there's lots of relationship ministries or marriage
Sure.
ministries, and there's only so many angles you can take, but it sounds like you have something that's a little bit more specific, or a little bit more focused. So can you explain that to us, so in case the
Yeah.
church is curious about this?
Yeah, we believe that God redeems romantic dreams. So Gary has a history of dating relationships that broke his heart over and over again. I have the history of the rape trauma, and so God of the Romantic is actually that the God of the Romantic presentations. We educate and we inspire people to know God's desire and His design
Mm.
in redeeming romantic dreams. And
As
this.
in, as in preparing yourself for when the right one is revealed to you. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Okay.
you have a better way of
Well,
saying it.
it prepares you, but it also shows you how God does it. And it teaches you to trust him. It teaches you to wait for him. It teaches you to have that depth of relationship with your Savior, that he will do this for you, and he
Mm.
desires to do it for you. So that's what, in a nutshell, that's what we teach people. We want them to be free in their singleness. We want them to stop striving and
Hmm.
rest,
Yeah.
because he wants to do that for them. And so
Okay.
Kim puts it this way really well. Many other ministries and many other people teach the psychology of the romantic. We teach the theology of the romantic.
Okay. Okay.
Comes all out of the scriptures. What we teach comes completely out of the Bible.
Okay. So let's get down to some reality then for a second. Um, and I'm going to kind of springboard it off of what Kim said earlier about, when she felt like God was sort of giving her a sense of know me first, commit to me first, be refreshed in me first, and that will begin to give me my worth and my dignity, because you give it to me and it can never be stolen, and it will always be pure and perfect. And that's all great, Kim. That is exactly true. That is what is expected of us. Meanwhile, you've got a 16-year-old girl that's never going to be asked to prom, who's never been asked for a date. And suddenly what you're saying is not just some simple solution. Oh, that's it. Just let Jesus fill in all the gaps for me. And as much as that is true, I often want, I think that Christians can be mean well, as in, I don't know, you lose a child, the worst thing that could happen. Say, well, he's in a better place. Well, the Lord's with him. It's kind of like, you know what? I don't need that right now, because that doesn't work. And there's not a scripture that really works right now. What I'd love for you to grieve with me, though. I'd love for you just to be next to me for a while, because your words don't matter. I don't care if they are from God. They're not working. So I want to be authentic enough to say everything you're saying I know is true. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christ follower. I get it. But it is so mature and deep and difficult to begin to do what you're saying. And when you're especially young and want to be desired, it's not easy. And the words will feel shallow to them, I think. So either one of you, can you help them when they feel like, well, you don't get it. You don't know what it's like to be in my house, or live the way I live, or how people treat me. So can maybe you help them um, endure and find out how to get through it without just lip service, but that it is
Well, I was that 16-year-old girl.
okay.
I lived life in the fat lane, I like to call it. I got no romantic attention. I never went to prom. And so I battled a lot about my worth and my value, and I believed most of it was negative.
Well,
And
that's what I'm saying. And if somebody come
yeah,
to you if somebody came to that 16-year-old Kim who's watching everybody else getting their limos and off to prom, and you weren't even asked, if that's what you're saying. And somebody said, "That's all right. Jesus is with you." You're going to go, "That's not enough right now."
Yeah.
I'm not taking away the truth of it, but what I'm saying is, when you're immature, when you're
Yeah.
young, when your peer is the single most important thing in your life, is help them understand you can get through this. You can do it, because
Well, let's just
you know what I'm getting at.
yes. The most basic thing is he is in you and you are in him. You're the most precious thing that has ever existed in his own existence because you were created from a desire to have and to hold by Christ first. And I know it sounds lofty, but it's not. If you want me to give an instruction to a young person, I would say read Psalm 139 over and over and over again until you are convinced of your worth and how present he is in your life.
Mm,
Just start there.
mm.
I believe that what would really help young people is to have a type of mentorship, a small group, girls only, guys only, where you have somebody who knows their worth leading you into your worth. It doesn't happen overnight, but it is
Yes.
it is an act of faith to
Yeah.
take God at his word. And
Yes.
and it sounds cliche, maybe, but is God's word cliche? No, it's life.
No. Well, and I think what you're saying, and again, I hope you understand the heart I had when I was
Yeah,
asking, because
yeah,
when you're young, the words aren't enough. Because you're struggling, man, with the difficulty and the challenges, and you don't have enough life experience to say, you know what, this will pass. I've been here before. You just don't have enough yet, and so it feels like it's the greatest tragedy of your life.
yeah,
You'll never get through it because you don't know how else to think.
yeah.
You said you've considered it. I didn't understand the term life in the fast lane,
Fat.
fat lane. Okay, so explain that.
Growing up a portly girl,
Okay.
there's not a lot of romantic activity
Okay.
going
All
on.
right. Let's talk about that
Yep.
then. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Okay. So you're how do you reference yourself, a portly girl? I want to be sensitive, but let's just be honest. And if you may not even know anything about my ministry or my career, but I'm a comic, and so I've made fun of everything, and I've talked about why do, like, I'm short, I'm 5'6", so I said people can call me short, and it's true, and it's like this fat is fat and skinny is skinny, and it is what it is, and I make jokes about, not in to demean people, but just to say, hey, we all are what we are, but body image is a big thing right now, and one of those things is, uh, I don't even think it's like someone like you that's just more portly, if that's the term we're going to use. But there are those who are obese. I mean, it's not healthy obese, and we're being told now that no, you actually are okay. So, do you have any sense of a balance when it comes to body um, being different? Because not everybody's going to be skinny, right? Not everybody's going to be tall. Not everybody's going to have long legs. So, do you have any maybe thoughts about how to see yourself when your body doesn't look like maybe the cheerleaders or the one that you think is the most desired?
The I remember being in school and the counsel I would always get is, it's what's on the inside that counts. And I thought that's a bunch of crap. And now I know it is true.
Mm,
It is how I've been created on the inside. It counts.
yeah,
And then trying to honor that on the outside. But I had a really good friend tell me, so this is for the girls who love Jesus. I had a friend tell me that the one that God would have for you, and you only need one, you don't need seven.
right.
You only need one that God would have for you, that his a beautiful spirit is going to recognize and desire another beautiful spirit. So work on your spirit, beautify your spirit, And the one that he has for you is doing the same. And
Yes.
the two of you are going to recognize each other. And you don't need 15 boyfriends to get to a husband.
Hmm. Yeah,
You
well
know,
done. Well
I
said.
had none.
Yeah. Folks, listen to me.
Uh,
You are out there, you've got a church, you have a ministry, you're a pregnancy resource center, and you're looking for fundraising to help grow that.
yeah.
You're going to want to go to, I think this is your website. If not, let me know. God of the Romantic Presentations. Is that where we go for our website?
Just just godoftheromantic.com.
Oh, okay. God of the Romantic. We'll put up a link when this airs.
Okay.
Godoftheromantic.com, so
Yep.
you guys can hear their story live. Perhaps they do a seminar. Maybe they come in for a weekend. Maybe they have some breakaways where Kim is on her own with the ladies and Gary's with the guys. And they're just trying to heal you with their story. They're trying to give
Yeah.
you hope. They're trying to show you a way out. They've been through the jungle. They found the path. All they're saying is, follow me. I can figure this one out for you. That's what it means to be a Christ follower. Folks, this is such a privilege that you all would come on with me and tell me your story and be vulnerable and real and open. And that's what we're here to do, guys, to pass on what we've learned and hope that others can be inspired by it. Remember, my friends, your story is just as important, and your story can be given to others, and your sphere of influence is important as well. And we thank Gary and Kim Elliot for coming on. Brad Stein has issues. Remember, folks, if they ever say you are politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. This is what it means to be a truth teller, means you are truly a Christ follower, unapologetic for your faith, because Jesus is the most famous human being that's ever existed, the most influential because he was God. I'm God's comic, Brad Stein, and I'm doing what I do. I'm putting the woke back to sleep. See you.